it's Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be working with a new product from the Stamps of Life, and this is the Birdcage. This is a fold-it card, so it actually makes an A2 size card. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, shaped like a bird cage. So you can make the card shape, or if you wanted to put this on a scrapbook page, you can do that, or you can put it on the front of a card. And it comes with 4 dies. You have your large piece, which actually makes your card base. So if you wanted to make a folded card, it would make your card base, or you can use this as a shadow layer on a scrapbook page, or on a, if you're using it on a card front. And then you have your other die, which actually has all of the details of your cage. And then it comes with these 2 dies, which is your shadow layer, and then the top die to make a just a little bark or a limb, like if you wanted to put it in your bird cage and put a little bird on top of it. So I'm going to go ahead and make a card with this today.
For this card, I'm going to start out by using some powdered sugar cardstock, and I'm going to be adding ink to this cardstock. Here I'm using the grape and the pixie ink colors, and I'm adding some grape ink to the bottom of this cardstock, and then I'm going to blend in some of the pixie ink, which is the lighter purple. Now, it doesn't matter how big your cardstock is, just as long as it's big enough to die cut as many flowers as you want for your card, because I will be die cutting some flowers out of this cardstock for my bird cage. Now, if you didn't want to ink blend up a piece of cardstock, you can always just pick a solid color piece of cardstock that you like and the colors you like, and just die cut that out of your flower dies. But I wanted to go with the whole ink blended look because I wanted my flower die cuts to look like they had various shades of purple in them. Now here I'm doing the same thing with the ocean and the pool inks. I'm also going to bring in the sea glass ink. So I'm just taking those blues and blending those together to create various shades. And again, if you didn't use the ink blending method here, just pick another solid piece of cardstock that matches the first piece of cardstock you chose. So I'm going with purple flowers and like a turquoise color flower. So I think that those 2 colors will match very nicely and make a nice color combination for my card. So I am using the Dragonfly and Flowers A2 card set for my flower dies. I really love the flower dies in this card set because there are 3 different style dies. There's a larger flower, there's a medium-sized flower, and a smaller flower. And these dies are perfect for layering because they come in the different sizes. So here I'm just putting these dies face down on my ink blended cardstock. I am adding some washi tape, and I die cut them several times. I'm doing the same thing here for the purple cardstock, same 3 flower dies, and I'm going to run these through my die cut machine. So the nice thing about this is that when these come out of your die cut machine, you will see a nice shading effect on your flowers. Now if you wanted to, you can just die cut your flowers out of regular white cardstock and then do the ink blending afterwards if you still wanted to have that ink blending look and didn't want to ink blend an entire piece of cardstock. So here I'm adding my glue to the middle of my flowers. Notice I'm just adding glue to the middle of each one of those die cuts. I'm not putting glue over the entire petal. This will allow me to raise up those petals for added dimension. So here I'm going to take each one of those petals and I'm going to raise them up so that the flower has dimension and that it doesn't look so flat. Next, I am going to take a piece of white cardstock. This is the powdered sugar. I'm folding it in half, scoring it down the middle, and I'm taking that largest die in the Birdcage die set and placing the die so that the left edge is slightly to the left of the fold in the cardstock. And then I'm going to run this through my die cut machine. Once I take that out of the die cut machine, I have my card base, but you'll see that some of the side on the left is cut off. So I'm going to take that same large die and die cut the same color cardstock. The cardstock's not folded, it's just a single layer, and that's going to be my layering piece for the top. Next, I'm taking a piece of the pixie cardstock and I'm adding some double-sided adhesive tape. This is about a 2-inch thick tape to the back because when I die cut this, I want the entire back to have adhesive on it. And then I'm going to take that layering die, run it through the die cut machine, and this entire sheet now is a sticker. So when I take this off, it has adhesive on the entire back, and I don't have to worry about glue. I can just add this directly to my card panel. So here I'm just taking out the middle pieces. These pieces I can save since they have double-sided adhesive on them. So if I wanted to die cut anything small, I can just save these and use them for smaller die cuts since they do have that double-sided adhesive on them already. Next, I'm going to take my grape ink and an ink blending tool and just add some ink to the edges of this bird cage, because I just want to add some dimension to this. So remember, this was cut out of the lighter purple cardstock, the Pixie, and I'm adding a darker shade just to add some dimension to these edges in the bird cage. Next, I'll peel back that adhesive backing, and this piece will be added to my powdered sugar shadow layer. Now, the piece that it's being added to is not the card base itself. It's actually going to be added to that single layer that has been cut out perfectly. Remember, we had the card base that had the part of the left side was cut off, so that piece was set aside, and you can see it there on the left side. This grape piece was added to that top layer. Next, I die cut these swirls from the A2 swirl card die set out of the green apple cardstock, and I am adding them to my bird cage just as you see them there. You can see the swirl die sitting there on the table. That's the swirl die that I had used. You also see the thinking of you in the top right corner of the table, which I die cut that out of the powdered sugar for the shadow layer and the grape cardstock for the words, and just added those two together. That thinking of you also came from the Dragonfly Flowers A2 card base, which was the same one from the flowers. And you can see me there just adding the flowers to my bird cage. So I'm adding glue just to the bottom center of those flowers and then adding them to the bird cage. Remember, because I flipped those petals up for added dimension, I don't want them to be flat on the bird cage. And you can see as I glue this down and place it down on the cardstock, I do continually move those petals up so they're not, sticking down. And then I add the thinking of you to the center of this bird cage. Now I'm going to be taking another piece of the powdered sugar cardstock and putting some more ink on here. This time I'm going to be using the Kiwi ink from the Stamps of Life. If you didn't want to ink blend this piece, just take out a piece of green colored cardstock and you can do the same thing here. And I am going to be using this die. This is the Flower, Vine, and Grid A2 card set, and you can see that this die has several vines that are on this background die. So I'm going to add some double-sided adhesive to the back of this, run it through my die cut machine, and I'll get this nice background where I can cut apart all of these vines to use on my card. So here's my die when it comes out of the die cut machine, and I'm just going to take some of these vines off here, and I'm not going to be using the flowers that are part of this die cut, but I am going to snip apart a few of these vines. You can see I'm just going to take some scissors and snip these apart, and they do have the double-sided adhesive already on the backs, so it will make it easier to add to my card. I am using some of the Kiwi ink just to add a little bit more ink to the edges of these, and then I'll be able to stick these underneath the flowers and then add these down. Now, if you wanted to have these vines stick up and not be so flat on your card, don't put the double-sided adhesive tape on the back of your cardstock before running this die through the die cut machine. Rather than just die cut it out on your cardstock without the double-sided adhesive tape, and you'll be able to just to add glue maybe to the edges of it, and then the ends of those vines will be able to add dimension and stick up. Because these vines were so delicate and thin, I just as well just add the whole thing to the card because I didn't want them to tear or rip, as the card is being handled. So I'm going to continue to cut these vines apart and add them to my card. Now, as you can see with the card, that the style that I've chosen to go with a more elegant theme, and I really love how it's turning out. You can also use your birds from your bird houses to stamp set, which is our club set for the month, and you can add a bird to the inside of your bird cage. You can give it a more cutesy theme, use some pattern paper, and add that bird stamp to your bird cage. So that's just another idea. I put some hot glue on just a piece of scrap paper, and I'm going to put some epoxy dots in the centers of these flowers, and I wanted just to put some hot glue on them just to make sure that they stay and don't accidentally come off, so that's why I chose to use the hot glue. And now I'm just taking this entire layer, adding some glue to the back, and then I will add this to the actual card base. I like to open up that card base so that it lays flat on the table, and then just line everything up and press down, and voila, you have your A2 size card that is shaped like a birdhouse. And I think this turned out so beautiful. So let me know if you have any questions or comments on this card, and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more card making inspiration. Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.